Vibes drop in. Wax, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Hey, excited. You sounds like kind of was looking, talked to your manager. Looks like you got a little bit of California, Canada, ended up in Colorado coming up in your life a little bit. Supporting with the album came out in May, right?
Yeah, the album came out in May 30th. Lifetime Achievement Award. And, it's been out for a while now, touring all over the place, Canada, the Midwest. We already did the East Coast and Southern California. So now we're doing Northern California, Seattle, Portland, all kinds of different places.
Sick. Yeah, let's start right there. I mean, I'm going to rewind this. We'll reverse engineer this conversation, and we'll kind of get back to the dude that you were before sort of, you got onto the scene. For me, Lifetime Achievement, clearly, there's some meaning in that title, but I think I want to get more to the human side of it. Like after all this time, now it's 2025, we've been through so much, the world, yourself, your career. What was the process on this exact record, and what kind of headspace you in right now?
The process on this album was, babe, I'm doing this interview right now. Could you is it possible to, no, it's okay. It's okay.
It's some real shit
I'm
right
sorry.
there.
Sorry, man.
That's real life right there. I like that.
Well, it's speaking of real life. I mean, like if you can see, like I'm in the you can't really tell from this.
I can a little bit.
It's the wrong angle, but like right now I'm in the process of packing up stuff to go to Canada and figuring out what I got. And I have to ship stuff to every city I'm going to in Canada because of all the flights. And then I have to ship stuff to the Midwest for the Midwest tour. And right now, a lot of that stuff I have to handle myself because no matter, I have a manager and a tour manager and all this stuff, but they can't come to my house and get the stuff out of my garage and send it. You know what I mean?
They can't do that. But they can't do that. Is that your art behind you? What's that art behind you?
That's me. That's a depiction of me and my friend who's now passed, who produced a lot of music with me, EOM. But that's not something I made. I wouldn't be able to make that.
That's a good backdrop for it. And so you're right. Eventually, I think in the world we live in, there's a dude out there in the world. His name's Stutz. He did a documentary with Jonah Hill over COVID. And he talks about like all the other bullshit we go through. There's one thing we'll never get away from. Three things. He's a therapist, and he says can't get away from constant work, pain, and adversity. And he doesn't even say that in a negative way. What he says is those are things that we need to handle on a daily basis. We have to have it in our playbook, and I'm even talking about your situation in that room right now, a tour. Eventually, it does come down to you.
It does. What do you say? Constant work, pain, and adversity.
His thing is, dude, you've got to watch it. I suggest it to everybody. It's Stutz, Jonah Hill's therapist. They recorded all their sessions through COVID, and he's like 70 something years old. He'd been doing it forever. And what he finally realized is he was being more kind of reactive than proactive. And so what he started doing with his clients like 15, 20 years ago was only working on them creating a playbook to handle constant work. And he says it's just the human condition, the world we live in. You're going to, however you look at it, constant work is a human condition. It's part of what we do. And that goes back to the beginning of the species, hunter-gatherers, we stop moving and all these things. Adversity. And he talks about that like personal. He talks about that in relationships, business, all of these things. It's a daily thing you're going to deal with. You might miss a stoplight, adversity. You might not get a gig, things that you need to deal with. And the last one is pain. And it's a broad scope that he talks about. Pain can be, it can be physical, it can be mental, it can be pain that you see in the world, politics, all of these things. And it's just changed his life where he started kind of, helping people out to kind of create get on the treadmill and figure out how do you handle that on a daily basis. Cause then he says it unlocks everything. If you're not, if you basically can handle those three things, it's, so right now, I guess you're dealing with a little bit of the pain of moving boxes, the adversity of getting your shit in boxes, and the constant work of going on tour. You can eventually bring it in,
The life being constant work really hits home for me because it seems like it's funny, with success just adds more stuff to your plate and more line items to your to-do lists. Me and my brother joke that when you die, you should have your stuff you didn't do yet on your to-do list written on your tombstone, because it seems like life is just like trying to get all these things done. And then all those things you're going through, those three things, the pain, the adversity, and the constant work, it's like you need to have that going on for the majority of the time, because the minority of the time is the opposite of pain is joy. The opposite of constant
That's
work is
it.
relaxation, and the opposite of adversity is comfort, I suppose. And even if you can feel an hour of those a day, it makes all the other ones worth it, you know?
That's exactly, and that's so funny. It's like question 5 on my list of like 6 I was going to ask you is, and we'll just stay right there because it's theirs. I think, I'm a lingering fan of yours. I think everybody ran into that song I think it was mid twos on YouTube. We've run into your music. It's sort of as part of like the zeitgeist and things like that. But then as I was starting to listen to more of your catalog leading up to this, I realized I know a lot more songs than I thought. Is for one, and the other one is you seem to have this conversation is very interesting because you go from the deepest introspective shit to completely, like I think stream of consciousness. We're fucking around. We're gonna basically get a camera, and I'm just gonna, I love that part of what you've done is there's a playfulness to it, but then you're not afraid to get serious.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's kind of how life is, right? It's kind of
Yeah,
like if you write from a place of truth, you're going to kind of cover all the bases of human life, which is like we just said, the pain, the joy, and really like kind of like the ability to laugh at it all too is kind of the only thing that gets us by. So
that's
that's
it.
why there's so much comedy and humor in it too, because you know you can write a silly song about being an alcoholic or a serious song about being an alcoholic. I just say that because that's kind of my experience, and a lot of my music is about that. But they can come from a joke, or a stand-up comedy and a political speech are kind of the same thing.
They
There's
are,
just
dude.
one is serious and one is making humor of it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that.
I call it equal standing. I think a lot of
Mm.
times we have this conversation, and in a weird way, they're very different. Different ways to get to the same bench, and sometimes, but they do have equal standing in the world. And I do think you're right. I think that humor sometimes is a shortcut or basically a toll pass to basically cut through, whether it be pain or things like that you're going through. I always use humor very counterintuitively. Sometimes I'll use some humor with friends in the worst moment, and it's exactly what was needed right then. It's
Right.
not the obvious thing, but it's the way to go. But go a little bit deeper. And we'll stay right there as far as your process. Are you stream of when you write and when you create? Are you writing in the mood you're in, or are you writing with like some kind of do you see it as like a movie script or a book, or what's your process?
It's it's kind of different from song to song. I think especially in music, you know, some take this for example. Take a rap song that has a chorus, and maybe the chorus is simple. Everybody can sing along to this chorus, and then the verse could be constructed in a way where you want this to be intricate, skillful, clever, and all this stuff. So my point is the chorus that probably just came to me while I was walking down the street. It's almost like the universe or God or whatever kind of gives you this chorus that's the simple part of it, the meat and potatoes.
Yep.
But then the rest of it sometimes, especially if you're doing like a rap song that's like a detailed story, that can almost feel more like doing a college paper or something. That's much more from the brain and less from the heart. But long story short, it's a completely different process for every song. On this new album, a lot of the process was just me sitting. I have this place in San Diego, right by on Sunset Cliffs, near Ocean Beach in San Diego, where like I just sit on this bench. I've been sitting on the same bench for 20 years. It's like my spot I go to,
Love it.
and I bring my guitar, and then I kind of just write whatever comes, and then every time I go there, I craft what I was working on last time, and
Yeah.
a lot of this album is that. Which makes it more of a mellow album.
Yeah, and I saw you there before we got on, and even in the middle here. The I'm interested as a father. I think of my life in like these little chapters of my life with Stacy, my life with the kids, and then the big thing is it's not just that you become this responsible parent. You're doing all these different things, but your view of the world changes and your emotions change. Even when you hear a lyric, or you might have watched a movie before you had kids, and you just kind of like went through it without a certain emotion. Now you watch it with kids, and you might cry. It's like
Right.
there's something that happens. Has that clearly made its way? I was listening to a little bit of the album. Has it made its way into your process a little bit? The being a father.
I mean, to be honest with you, it has. But most of that album was pre. My kid's not even 2 yet,
Okay.
so she's my only kid. So most of that album was actually written pre
Okay.
child. Now the performing of the songs, it's interesting that you said that because there's certain songs, even my past songs, that I might hear differently now from the perspective of being a father. You know, some things that I used to say might sound more irresponsible. Some things that I used to say might make me more emotional. You know what I mean? Like you're kind of a different human being once you have that
And that's so
that
true.
the fatherhood ship in your Trivial Pursuit circle. You know what I'm saying? Like
The
like
second time, that's the second fucking time that's come up today. I just had a sales meeting for Vibes, and I was with this young bar owner, and I said, it's really that Trivial Pursuit kind of thing. It's like with your marketing thing, and she had no idea what I was talking about, dude.
was
It was
she
like
younger?
she was younger. She's like in her 20s, and I was saying like, I'm like, it's I'm just being all connected. I'm like, it's like Trivial Pursuit. It's like when you're filling those little slices of the pie, marketing's that way. And she's looking at me like, what are you talking about, dude? And so I had to actually
Right.
do it. But here's the thing. I'm going to connect you to another interview I did last week as far as what this all means. I think it's more a me thing, me understanding, doing my homework, knowing you're a father now. I was listening for emotions and lyrics and words in those songs to connect you to a father. It didn't even exist in some of that writing. But the bottom line is
Right.
that's how we interpret music, right? And I just had John Ondrasik on last week from Five for Fighting, the band. And he had a big, huge American songbook called 100 Years. He did it, I think, 26 years ago. Just this sort of guilty pleasure song that's out there in the world. He did Superman. He did 100 Years. He wrote that when he was on the up, just signed his deal, was kind of international kind of, traveling and things like that. Well, now he's 60. He wrote that song, and one of the lyrics is about being 23 and going through his life, what he thought his life was going to be. Now he's on that stage singing that same song. The lyrics mean it's a completely different song that he wrote. Do you have a little bit of that in some of when you go back? Because you've been cracking at this for 20, 25, how long now?
Yeah, a long time, man. I started making music when I was a little kid, and I'm in my mid 40s now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, basically 30 years, but professionally almost 20. I haven't
Yeah.
had a
Yeah.
and I haven't had a real job in 16. 16 years I've been able to
Right.
barely get by with this.
So good. Yeah.
It has it's a roller
No
coaster
doubt.
with that, but I haven't
Yeah.
had to have a job since in 16 years.
Do the words mean something different to you now as you sing them and perform them?
Yeah, the words definitely mean something different now, especially songs. I was at a different place in my life in my 20s. Maybe songs about just. I have one song called "Out of My Mind" that just is about the idea that rather than focusing on the pain that I'm in, I'd just rather get effed up. You know what I'm saying? Which is, I think, a very common thing. But
Yep, exactly.
now
Yeah.
I still sing the song live, and I was saying before we got cut off that when I do a live show and I'm doing an old song, especially when there's a bunch of people at the show that have been with me that long, I kind of look at it like I'm doing the show for them. So I'm attaching to their nostalgia and their teenage years and their college years whenever they were listening to the song. And it's more like we're all together looking back in time. So no matter how I feel about it,
That's amazing.
I almost disconnect from the lyrics in a way and just kind of tap into the emotion. What's interesting to me is people that listen to my music that are 15 years younger than me. They'll be like, yeah, listen to your music in middle school and I liked it, but now I understand it, because they'll get to the age I was when I wrote it and felt that way, That's what's cool about music. It sticks around. All recorded art. I mean, you can go to the Louvre and look at a painting. This is from 800 years ago. It's still there. You're long gone or whatever. It's cool that somebody else can experience how they want to experience it and when they want to experience it.
Did it come out of left field? Because looking at your career by the available media, new crack, and all these different things that kind of happen, those are just simple tipping points. But I guess the question isn't so much what the world says happened to you, that you were basically in a band, you broke off, you had this moment. I think you and your brother got that camera and kind of created new crack. And I don't know if that was as big a moment for you as it looked from the outside in as far as your career was. What was your view of your career at that point? And did that video have the effect that it looks like it did in the world?
Yeah, I think so. The new crack one was a big one for me because not only was it an introduction of me to a lot of different people. Especially, you have to consider at that time, like YouTube was new. There wasn't a lot of other people. You know
Exactly.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It was a new thing. So, but not only did it introduce me to a lot of people, but it introduced me to the idea that you can use the internet in that way to circulate your own, to circulate yourself. Because before that, I was in a band for many years, and we come from the old school where you tour and you find people one person at a time, and hopefully they'll tell their friends, and you sell them a CD. You put them on your mailing list, which might actually have their address where you send a postcard to you know what I mean? Like, just old school stuff.
Right. No, I mean, that's exactly it. I think it's funny, though. I looked back on that video the other day when I knew we were doing this, and there's this, I used that word the second time. I think you touched into something before YouTube was YouTube, where now that kind of content you did in New Crack is sort of the raw organic shit that's working right now again. It like went into this real kind of stylized world for a while, right? Like people were sort of MTVing YouTube sort of at the beginning. They didn't know what to do with it. But the fact that you did that video that way, and I think there's even some shout outs at the end, it just felt real camcordery, real kind of raw. And it was you just flowing, which I think is just, for me in that genre, that ability, it's one thing to be able to put all those words together. And I got to say this with all due respect to people that do and don't make it. There's those that can do it, and it feels like a natural kind of conversation you're having with them when they're rapping. The way you kind of like isolate certain, words and things like that. And it just comes off as you're not trying too hard. And I think that's my biggest compliment when I listen to all your music is it never feels like, and it may be different from your process, but it doesn't feel like you're trying too hard. And that's easy on the ears, even if you're sort of like, in some of your lyrics, even if you're sort of rebelling, even if you're sort of like starting some shit, it's easy on my ears when I listen to it.
That's awesome. I take that as a real compliment, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's part of where it is. So then you blow up a little bit, right? And you blow up, or at least you get the scene and people are hearing it, and then you kind of go through this little. Tell me a little bit about that window after you blow up, and I think Def Jam was in there a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. And so you quote unquote make it, right? In your own vision, what was that time like? And then I think that was not, you weren't there for the longest period, and you have some thoughts on that, right?
Yeah, well, it was an interesting period. I got the thing, especially back then, the thing that everybody talks about since you're a kid, the record deal. You gotta get signed, get a deal, get signed. That's what everybody says. Yeah. So I did. I got signed. I got a good amount of money. It was interesting because really when you get signed, the work is only beginning. Like for every artist that you've heard of that got signed, there's 100 artists that got signed just like they did, but you never heard of them. Like it's almost like like the analogy in sports would be, for every player in the NBA, how many of them are stars? Like they might have made it to that level, but how many people play in Europe that you never heard of? That's actually a better.
That's
you
it.
know what I'm saying?
That's a better analogy.
Yeah, because they didn't quite get there, But when I got there, there was a lot of high hopes, and it was kind of crazy because at that time I had two managers at that time, and I got into a thing where they didn't like each other, and I fired one of them, but it was illegal, and then it became this whole thing where all of us are kind of fighting over money that doesn't exist yet, and it ended up being a thing where I spent most of my money on lawyers trying to deal with that situation, and then it never came to fruition. I never got that that big song that they wanted me to have. Ironically, like right when they dropped me, like literally the day after they dropped me, I put out this music video that went viral, and then I had a hit song with a song that it was a hit in Europe. And that was a crazy time too. And I got another record deal, but it was a European.
Is this before or after like Rosana?
That is Rosana. That is Rosana. The day after I got dropped from Def Jam, I put out Rosana's music video. And
such a sick Sean song.
Thanks, man. And then that song blew up because I got a record deal off that song in Europe, and that became like the kind song on the pop charts in a couple countries over there, which was a really, really interesting experience. But that. Even after all that, I became a kind of a one-hit wonder over there, And had a great time. I did a bunch of big festivals over there. I toured over there. And it was like, it was cool because it was like high level touring where they put you in the penthouse suite and all that. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, then
Yeah.
after that, I kind of just, you know, since then I've been kind of low key doing my thing as an artist. There's a lot of people that like me, but it's like not a lot, but it's enough. You know what I mean? And
Oh, it's enough. I mean, here we go again back to Stutz. You're in. I don't know. Here's the thing. We always fill up that cup no matter what level it is. And it is going to be that Stutz thing. It is that constant work. Like the way you're doing it right now is constant work. If that would have gone a different way, there's still the administration. I forget the money. I think about it. You would have had this team and you would have had this, it all comes with eventually. We have to be sort of stoked with what we're putting out. There's this book I read all the time, and he it's another philosopher, but he lands on the thing. All we're here for a very short period of time is to express ourselves. I mean, and it comes in so many different fashions. Like, we're here for a short period of time. And when it's all said and done, we're just, we're here to express this life that we're living right now. Yours comes through this fashion and things like that. But it's, now at the top of that, the top of that peak there, adversity, did you have moments where you feel like this will never go away, this is the new? Did you party a little too much? What was the adversity in that? Or was it just smooth
I mean,
sailing
the
and then
main
it kind of went back to the work?
first of all, the main this is all set in a backdrop of alcoholism. I since I was young, I drank a lot, and when I had this deal, I was drinking more than ever. Just every day I drank a 12-pack of beer. That was how I got down. And whenever I went to the studio, that was like a necessary, like, in the morning you go to the liquor store like that. I thought that was a necessary part of the process. And basically, long story short, it's this. When I was with Def Jam, the goal was for me to create a hit song for the radio, right? So I would go into the studio, sometimes with people that were like, well-known producers and songwriters and things like that. And I was having a good time for a few months, but then when I started to give them music and I kind of got rejected, or like, this isn't right, this isn't it, this isn't, what I'm saying? So then you start to question yourself. Then you start to, and the only thing you really have is the only thing you have as a songwriter, a musician or producer, or whatever it is. What you create is just your opinion. I think this is good. That's like what you said about expressing yourself. You're expressing what you feel is good. It's all it really is an opinion. So if your opinion's constantly questioned, and you're trying to they gave me a deal. I'm trying to satisfy them as well, not just myself. Eventually you get paralyzed. You get creatively paralyzed, and that definitely happened to me. I would do a week of sessions and come out with nothing, and I would be super, super, super sad. Like, I'd be at hotel rooms, just like calling my brother, literally crying. Like, I was really, really, really depressed at that time, which is really why, the main reason why it ended up not working out.
And it's funny because, and again, this is the classic artist question. In the rubble of all of that, past the times where you had those bad weeks, those emotions, and sometimes clearly talking to you right now, you had this, you had a clarity moment, because it sure seems like you're straight and sober right now. I don't know if that's the case or not, but it seems like, have you been able to kind of vanquish that demon a little bit, or where are you at?
Yeah, I'm 7 years off booze. I haven't drank in 7 years, and after a few years,
Congrats.
Thanks, man.
That's huge.
After a few years, after I went through all the periods that they tell you about that are true, like a year before, in the first 2 years, like all the emotions or whatever that you're trying to suppress, I guess, like kind of come back up. And for me, that also coincided with COVID, and I went through a rough patch with that, but I never went back to drinking, and now I wouldn't. And now I couldn't even imagine doing that and trying. Like, it's hard enough to do all the stuff that I'm doing now without that. Like, throwing that ratchet into the mix would be crazy for me personally, But
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you get the tether. I call them tethers. And your kid's a tether now, and I was if anything, I was more. I just got lucky. Everybody's built a little differently, but I was more on the binge side of it, which was just a regular occurrence. But you throw one, two, three kids into the mix, and first minute you sort of get in those calm, open waters. You're like, I don't think I'm going to do that again. And we're lucky because our addiction of choice, if that's the case, is one that you can steady the ship a little bit there. And it goes, did you get some eventual good lyrics and work out of that though? Did you finally squeeze some juice out of that hard time?
Yeah, I think so.
Like on paper?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that a lot of the stuff on my new album, the one I'm touring on, Lifetime Achievement Award, is kind of a reflection of that. It's kind of like, I have a song called "Shit I Used to Do" on there, which is just where I'm at now and where I used to be. And yeah,
Yep.
I definitely have put some of that into writing. I can't think of exactly some other ones on the album where I talk about that, but
No, just it's over. It's more, yeah, it's more just like I think it's more like I got to imagine for somebody like you, we all do different things, but when it's all said and done, I got to imagine for you, whether it be that bench that you go to, whether it be that guitar, whether it be pencil on paper, that's a little bit of therapy for yourself, right?
oh,
On
dude.
some level, when it's going good.
Dude, I mean, I was just telling somebody, right? I'm doing all this touring right now, and I have a lot of musician friends that are like, I need to be on stage. I need to be on stage. That's the only way I can express myself. I'm not like that. I love performing. I love
Yeah.
hamming it up, but that's the time that the whole reason I do this is because of that moment on the bench that I told you about. My best
I love that. I love
my
that.
best moments, the reason that I'm in my mid 40s and still make music is not because of anything that happens in front of other people. It's not because of anything that happens in a studio. Well, in a studio, yes, I take that back. But it's the writing and recording and stuff that really is what does it for me. I do enjoy the performance as well, and I've developed into a good performer and whatnot. But like, that's if I like when I do a performance, I'm getting on stage and saying, "Here's the things that I wrote." To be in a cover band would do nothing for me, basically. You know what I'm saying? Like this,
That's exactly
it's
it.
it.
Yeah.
And no,
Yep.
if that's what you do, that cool. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. We all like different things, but for me, the moment that I have the most joy with music is I'm actually with nobody but myself. It's 100% therapy and a meditative process that helps me work through all of it, and that's why I think a lot of people relate to it, because I'm just saying how what I'm going through, and we're all human beings. We kind of go through the same shit.
That's it, dude. And I think it goes back to that thing we talked about a few minutes ago, which is it's really a good place in life if you somehow can realize that the bench in that example has equal standing to when you're here in a few weeks on stage at the Catalyst, working the crowd a little bit. I think what you're saying, and maybe just a quiet moment on a Saturday morning with your kid, they all have equal standing.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. It's heavy. So for so many of our demographic right now, what can they expect? We're eventually selling tickets here. We're kind of going through that and getting people down the Catalyst. Like, what is a wax show? What can they expect when they click yes and they're going to go see the show? What are they going to see?
I suppose I should have I should talk more highly of my own performing when I'm trying to sell tickets to the show. I love I
Yeah.
love doing it. I love performing, and I always make,
Yeah.
like I said, for me the performance is not about me. The performance is about the people who are there. So I try to heavily involve the crowd.
That's it.
I ask people names. I used to do stand up comedy, so I kind of have a vibe in between songs where, I'm doing what some people would call crowd work, and I try to involve the crowd as much as
love that.
possible. So I have my
Yeah.
DJ Hopper will be there. He's a world class hip hop DJ and music producer. I do some classic like 2 turntables and a microphone rap stuff. I also have a guitar,
Love
and
it.
I do a
Yeah.
section of the set where I kind of take it to that bench where we're talking about, and just play some
Love it,
solo
dude.
acoustic stuff. And I try to mix the energy up a little bit, and I always try to play the people that have been with me for a long time that want to hear some of the old quote unquote classics. I always try to play as many of those as I can. I even take requests sometimes. I'm not scared of stuff like that.
Love it.
It's very on the fly, which you can do if you have a. There's
You
a,
play the
What's that?
Have you played the Catalyst before?
I
have.
have.
You played the Catalyst?
I have. I played the small room and the big
Right
room,
on.
and we're doing the small room this time.
Atrium.
The atrium, yep.
Atrium, I love the atrium.
Me too.
Just saw Landon McNamara there, and if I had we saw Offspring there in the big room, and even it doesn't matter for me. Local, being born and raised here, this going back to when I went in high school to concerts, it's always atrium for me, because it's so intimate, it's so rad, and you can. The Catalyst is a great venue, but man, that open room is very difficult because it's a difficult concert to be, in the crowd at the Catalyst unless you're up top a little bit. But the atrium, for me, that's the spot. Like when I hear concerts there, I'm going. So
yeah.
Well, I'm psyched. I got to get Boogie in here. Is there anything else? I guess I'll throw all the handles in here. We've got all the stuff we're going to throw it up on our TV network. We're going to put it in, all over the place for you and see what we can do over a few weeks here. But this was amazing, dude. I just blew through my other interview. It was so good. So,
no, that was awesome, man.
This was great.
That was awesome.
I think. Yeah, and I think we'll definitely be there. We're going to come check out the show because I think it'll be rad to kind of like after. I always love after doing these interviews, kind of seeing it translate on the stage.
Yeah, come through, say what's up, and anybody you know, tell them, tell all your friends, tell your family, tell your enemies, whoever. Let's get some people in there.
First, thanks, brother.
All right, thank you so much, Brian. That was awesome.